You're wrong. That was a bad idea. I don't have time for this.
Ouch, James. That felt like a cold splash of water.
It did, didn't it? But how many times a day do we hear those kinds of phrases, or even say them ourselves, without thinking about how they land?
Too often. Way too often. But what if you could say the exact same thing and leave the other person feeling good about it?
That is the power of softness. And today, we are going to dig into how to disagree without ever making someone feel small. Welcome to Daily Lingua.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Daily Lingua, your daily dose of English. I'm Maria.
And I'm James. To all of our listeners joining us today, hello, welcome, we are so happy you are here.
James, how are you feeling today?
Honestly, a little tired. I had a long conversation last night with a friend. We disagreed about something quite silly, actually.
Oh, what was it?
Whether a hot dog is a sandwich.
No, you spent your evening on that?
I am telling you, Maria, it got quite serious. There were definitions. There was hand-waving. At one point, he stood up from his chair.
I cannot believe it. And who do you think was right?
Me, obviously. A hot dog is not a sandwich. The bun is connected on one side. That changes everything.
I am not going to touch that one. But it is a perfect way to start today's topic, actually.
It really is. Because even over something ridiculous like a hot dog, things can get heated. And when it is something that actually matters, at work, with family, with a partner, the way we disagree can change everything.
And that is what we want to talk about today. Not what we disagree about, but how we do it. How do you hold your ground without hurting the person in front of you?
Exactly. And I want to start with something that happened to me recently. A real moment where I had to think carefully about how I responded.
Tell us.
I was in a meeting, and a colleague suggested an approach to a project. I thought it was going to cause problems. And my very first instinct, was to say, that is not going to work.
The direct version.
The very direct version. But I caught myself. I paused, and instead I said, I love the thinking behind that. Can we look at a few possible challenges together?
And?
She said, yes, of course. We talked it through. She actually agreed with me in the end, but she felt good about the conversation. She did not feel shut down.
That pause you took, that tiny moment before you spoke, that made all the difference.
It really did, and it is something I have had to practice. It does not come naturally to everyone.
No, it does not. I think for a lot of people, especially in some cultures or families, being direct is seen as honest, as respectful even. Like, I'm not wasting your time, I am telling you what I think.
And that is fair. There is nothing wrong with being direct. The question is, can you be direct and kind at the same time?
I think you can. I really believe that. My grandmother, actually, she is the best example I know.
You have mentioned her before. She sounds like a wonderful person.
She is incredible. She can tell you that you are completely wrong about something, and you still walk away feeling warm. She never raises her voice. She always finds something kind to say first, and then, in this very gentle way, she says, "But have you thought about this, my dear?"
My dear. Even the words are soft. She brings in her point without pushing you.
And somehow that makes you think, maybe she has a point. If she came at me strongly, I would have just dug in and argued back.
Because that is what we do. When someone pushes, we push back. It is almost automatic.
So gentle communication is not about being less honest. It is about being more effective.
That is exactly it. And in English, or really in any language, that is a skill worth building.
So let us start with something simple, the pause. James, you already touched on it, but I want to sit with it for a moment. Why is the pause so powerful?
Because most of the time, our first reaction is emotional. Someone says something we disagree with, and our brain goes, no, wrong, let me fix this. That reaction is fast. Too fast sometimes.
The pause gives your brain a chance to catch up with your mouth.
That is a lovely way to put it, yes. That one breath, that tiny moment, lets you think, how do I want this conversation to go?
And it does not have to be a long pause. Even 2 seconds.
2 seconds is enormous in a conversation. It signals something. It says, I heard you. I am thinking. I am not just firing back.
In English, we even have little phrases we use to buy ourselves that moment. Things like, that is an interesting point, or, let me think about that for a second.
Or even just, That small sound can do a lot of work.
Is underrated. It is doing so much.
It really is. Listeners, try it this week. Before you respond to something difficult, just, See what happens.
Now, James, we have a word today that holds all of this together, and I think you should introduce it.
Our word for today is softness.
Softness. Softness.
And in English, softness is not weakness. This is important. Softness is strength, but strength without edges. It is the ability to hold your position without hurting the person standing across from you.
A soft answer does not mean you are giving in. It means you are choosing how to deliver your truth.
Well said. And I think that is what trips people up. They think, if I am too gentle, they will not take me seriously.
But the opposite is usually true. When you speak with softness and calm, people listen more closely because they are not on the defensive.
Exactly. When someone is calm, it is almost disarming. You expect a fight, and instead you get a conversation.
So, let us get practical. Let us look at some real English phrases for disagreeing, and we want to start with the most common ones you will actually hear.
Yes, because in real life, people do not disagree in perfect grammar. They use shortcuts, quick phrases, things they say automatically.
Exactly. So, James, let us do something. You give me the very direct version of something, the kind of thing someone might blurt out, and I will try to find the softer way to say the same thing.
Like our teaser. Yes, let us try it again, but slow it down. Ready?
Ready.
You're wrong.
I see it a little differently. Can I share my perspective?
Beautiful. Same meaning, different landing. What about, I totally disagree?
I hear you, but I am not quite sure I agree on that one.
Good. That phrase, I hear you, is doing a lot of work there.
It is, because you are telling the person, I am listening. I am not dismissing you, even though I am about to push back.
That is so important. Let us try another. That is a bad idea.
I wonder if we could look at this from another angle?
Or even, I like where your head is at, but I think we might run into a problem here.
Ooh, that is a good one. I like where your head is at. It gives something positive first.
And the phrase run into, that is a phrasal verb we love. To run into something means to meet a problem unexpectedly.
So, we might run into a problem. It is not your fault. It is not my fault. It is just something we are going to face together.
Exactly. That word is so small but so powerful in disagreements. Instead of, your plan has a problem, you say, we might run into something here.
Let us do one more of those. I don't have time for this.
I would love to go over this. Can we find a better moment?
Perfect. You are not saying no. You are not saying the person does not matter. You are just managing the situation.
And dear listeners, notice that all of these soft versions have something in common. A question at the end.
Yes. Can I share my perspective? Can we find a better moment? Could we look at this together?
Questions invite the other person in. They say, this is not over. I want to keep talking. I just want to do it differently.
And that small shift, from a statement to a question, completely changes the energy of a conversation.
Maria, let us talk about a few more phrasal verbs because I think they are perfect for this topic. English learners sometimes avoid them, but native speakers use them all the time when they are disagreeing.
Yes, and they often make you sound more natural. More like you are really speaking, not reading from a textbook.
So the first one is to back down. To back down means to stop insisting on something, to give up your position.
Like, he never backs down. Even when he is wrong, he just keeps going.
I know people like that. Now, the question is backing down always bad?
No, sometimes backing down is the wisest thing you can do. If someone makes a good point and you change your mind, that is not weakness. That is called listening.
And there is a phrase for that too. You've brought me round. Or, I think you've brought me around on that.
To bring someone round or bring someone around means to change their opinion, slowly, gently.
Like, I wasn't sure at first, but she brought me round. I changed my mind because of her.
That is a lovely phrase, because it sounds gradual, doesn't it? Not, bam, you're right. But, okay, I have thought about it, and I think you have a point.
Yes. Now another one, to talk something over. To talk something over means to discuss a problem together, calmly.
Like, let's talk this over before we make a decision.
Or, I think we need to sit down and talk this over properly.
And the word properly there adds something. It says, let us take this seriously. Let us do this right.
Good point. And one more, to come around, which is similar to bring someone round, but it is about yourself.
So, I didn't agree at first, but I came around, meaning, eventually, I changed my mind.
And it implies that it took time. That is okay. You do not always have to decide on the spot. I need to think about it and come around in my own time.
That is something I think people forget. It is okay to say, I am not ready to agree right now. Let me think about it.
Absolutely. You do not have to win or lose in every conversation.
James, I want to flip this now. Because we have been talking about how we disagree with others, but what about when someone disagrees with us? How do you receive it well?
Oh, this is the harder skill, I think. Because being on the receiving end of a disagreement, even a gentle one, can feel uncomfortable.
It can feel like criticism, even when it is not meant that way.
So the first thing is, try not to shut down. That instinct to go quiet or go cold, try to catch it.
You can buy yourself a moment with a simple phrase like, that is a fair point. Let me think about that.
Which is not saying you are right. It is saying, I heard you and I am not running away from this.
Or, I had not thought about it that way. That one is lovely because it is actually quite vulnerable. You are admitting that someone has shown you something new.
And people respond very well to that because they feel heard. They feel like the conversation was worth having.
There is also, you might have a point there. Notice it is might. It gives you a little space. You are not fully agreeing, but you are not fighting it either.
It is like a soft landing. You might have a point.
And sometimes, honestly, the most powerful thing you can say is just, I need to think about that. Not everything has to be resolved in the moment.
That is so true. We put so much pressure on ourselves to respond immediately, to have an answer right now. But it is completely fine to say, this is interesting. Let me come back to you.
And then actually come back, follow up. That shows respect.
And it shows that the disagreement was not just something you were enduring, it was something you were genuinely taking on board.
Okay, before we start to wrap up, let us do one more quick practice together. Dear listeners, again, try to think of your own soft version before we give ours.
Are you ready?
Ready. Let us go.
Someone says, I think this project should be done my way.
I love your energy on this. Can we talk through both approaches and see what works best?
Good. Here is another. You never listen to my ideas.
I am sorry if it feels that way. I really do want to hear you. Can we start over?
Ooh, that can we start over is powerful. It is like pressing a reset button on the conversation.
Yes, and the I am sorry if it feels that way is important too. Not I am sorry you feel that way, which can actually sound dismissive, but I am sorry if it feels that way, which is gentler and more open.
Good catch. One more. That will never work.
I wonder what some of the challenges might be. Could we think through those together?
Perfect. Same message, completely different experience for the person hearing it.
And dear listeners, all of these phrases take practice. You will not get it right every time. None of us do. Even James still argues about hot dogs.
I stand by everything I said. But yes, I am working on my delivery.
We all are.
So, before we go, let us bring it back to our word, softness. What does softness look like this week for our listeners?
I think it looks like one breath before you respond. One small pause. That is all.
It looks like choosing a question instead of a statement sometimes. Could we look at that together instead of, that is wrong?
It looks like separating the person from the point. Even when you disagree strongly with the idea, you can still respect the person.
And it looks like being open to coming around. Not backing down because you are afraid, but genuinely listening and allowing yourself to change.
Because in the end, disagreement is not the enemy. It is how we disagree that shapes our relationships, our workplaces, and our conversations.
And if we can do it with softness, with those small moments of kindness, then a disagreement can actually bring people closer.
And don't forget, we have a free PDF ready for you, with all of today's phrases written out, the direct version and the gentle version side by side, so you can study and practice on your own. You will find the link in the description.
Try one this week, just one, and see what happens.
Thank you so much for being here with us today.
This is Daily Lingua.
Keep speaking.
Keep growing.
Take care, everyone.